your favorite radio station.
This is Afro Vibes Radio Houston.
Welcome everybody. Thank everybody for joining us. This is the SourceSeeker Hour on Afro Vibes Radio, the #1 internet station in the world. I'm your host, Baruti Carl Alexander. Thank everybody for joining us with my co-host, Pamela Ballard Hicks. And we are going to have a great show today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank everybody for joining us here on the SourceSeeker Hour. I have 3 tremendous guests, and we may have one more joining us today. We're going to go around the room and ask everybody to introduce themselves. We're going to start on the left right here with my brother right here. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Keith Strong, and glad to be here.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. My brother over here.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Dion Dorsett. I am the president of the Houston Area Urban League Young Professionals. I'm really excited to be here. And during the daytime, I work for the U.S. Department of Labor as an equal opportunity investigator.
Awesome.
Peace and power. Peace and power.
Man, that is beautiful.
Right here, brother.
Cedric Keeler, and I host an FM radio show called Conscious Mindset, where we strive to enlighten, educate, entertain, and most importantly, empower our people to realize that this is the time. Now is the time. We are the ones that we're waiting on, and there's no more time to wait or waste.
Peace and power. And yes, this is the SourceSeeker. I am Baruti Carl Alexander, the SourceSeeker, and this is going to be a great show. Our theme today is, why is it that black people cannot work together compared to other races? Is that still true today? Is it different? Is it better? What has caused this situation? We're going to go around and ask these tremendous guests, and we're going to get into that conversation deeply, strongly, powerfully. And this is going to be a profound discussion, discussing current events, what's happening, things relevant to society, open, honest, and courageous here on the SourceSeeker Hour. And we thank everybody. And this is going to be a powerful show with these outstanding guests with a cross-section of different thoughts and different streamlines of thinking. From different organizations, have been involved in different organizations and can comment on those organizations. We're going to start the discussion with this question. Black organizations in America go back far as long as America's been here, of course. From Marcus Garvey's UNIA to the Prince Hall Masons, and before that, the anti-slavery associations, all have had an impact. But why have they had difficulty? Is it only because of the white man? Brother Keith Strong, what you think about that?
I think it's a very complex. It's a very great question to answer, but a very complex answer because it's got a lot of different elements to it, if you will, right? Just getting us to speak to one another in public, just getting us to acknowledge one another in our interactions with one another on a day-to-day basis seems to be very, very tough for any of us to do. So when you talk about trying to work together, when we don't feel a sense of connectedness or kinship toward one another, and if you look at most behaviors, they're all based on learning environments, things that you've been taught, things that you've been conditioned to believe or to accept about yourself or about others. And so the answers to those kinds of questions is multifaceted, right? There's education outside the home, there's education in the home, there's education from the institutions that we interact with, there's cultural intersections that take place amongst blacks and outside of blacks. So there's no one answer from my perspective to that question. As a business person, I kind of look at it, business and technology person, I kind of look at it from that lens, if you will, as opposed to someone that's coming maybe from an educational perspective, or someone coming maybe from a social environment. So I'm allowed some others to chime in here, but I think it really depends on.
There's a scripture that says, "An enemy have done that," and to have a learned behavior, somebody taught you that behavior. Somebody embedded that behavior into your mind. So, once upon a time, there was a nationalist leader, of which I was a part of the organization. He said, "There's an acceptance of black inferiority, as well as there's a declaration of black inferiority."
Absolutely.
And of course, the the acceptance, if you get to the point where you have an acceptance, that's the most insidious of all. And even Carter G. Woodson said, you know, a black man who's been trained in such a way, if there's not a back door, he will create one.
Yes.
You know, what you say about that, Brother Dion?
So, I guess I would say that I think what has happened over time is that we've incorporated this segregationist mindset, right? I think it was put upon us to always be separate and apart from each other, and that the only way that success kind of comes to us is if we separate ourselves and we don't allow connectivity to happen. An example of how that's come into the future is like when people start to become more affluent, how our people will leave our communities, and this is the community that helped birth and raised you. But then we turn around, we look back at these communities, and now they're called underserved, underrepresented communities. But that's not what they were. That's not what was there when we were receiving these opportunities. And I think when that happens, it continues to go further on, that what it means to have success is to move yourself further and further away from your people and to closer and closer to other people. When we should be defining success, and the success of our organizations has always come from us having the connectivity and us being together. I think some of the pieces we talked about, Garvey, and you talked about some different organizations that have kind of like, they haven't stood the test of time. And I think part of the reason is because people move away from the mission, and the original mission was the people. And we get away from the mission, and we just start to focus on just the group, right? And then there's no outreach. No one cares about what's going on with the next person. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves completely divided and easy pickings from any enemy that would want to have what we have.
But a part of that I mentioned in that is the question of, is there somebody to blame? And I asked the question, has an enemy done that to us? Our mind, when we were first brought out of nature, did not have that embedded mindset. So did somebody put that in us? We mentioned the Garvey organization. Of course, Garvey was attacked in many ways, and so many people fought against him. Yes, black people too, but the government of the United States eventually put him in jail in that situation. What you say about this question, Brother Cedric?
You know, I think it's apropos that we're having this conversation, and it's so necessary, so needed that we do discuss this and then begin to break it down and analyze it so we can get a clear and cogent understanding. I love what the brother said prior to, and I was really just enamored with how well they explicated it. I think the thing that I want to focus on is the African proverb, if there's no enemy within, the enemy without can do no harm.
Ooh, that's beautiful. I like that one.
And I think that if you look historically at our organizations, they've crumbled from within. We know that there have been attacks from a plethora of organizations, be they sanctioned by the government and be they outside of the affiliation of the government, but they weren't stopped by the government. But I do think that one of the most damaging thing that we have seen is the lack of unity and the division and the divisiveness that exists amongst organizations. I think we've all been a part of an organization where you could see the ego, the vanity, the ignorance, and the jealousy and the envy destroy the organization from within, to where people can't even get to the point to where we finish a meeting on time, to where we can't even do anything constructive and productive because I could say left and that person's going to say right no matter what, right? Or whatever the case may be. So when we look at the animus and the anger and the frustration and the division that exists within us, we have to begin to look at why that exists. Why do we have this Cain and Abel syndrome? And it's still going on today, so to speak. So yeah, jump in.
I just want to say, don't other organizations, don't other races, they have envy. They have where they fight against one another. It seems to be a little bit more embedded in us to have a syndrome against one another, light against dark, all different kinds of situations. So, I mean, is that an easy cop out, Brother Sababa?
It's all based on conditioning, social conditioning.
Correct.
Right? And whatever the genesis was for that, or when it started, okay, we can go down that rabbit hole if we want to. But the answer, I think, to get out of this is having counter institutions that we control.
Correct.
Right? Not only that we control, but it's kind of like the process that we went through, right? Give you a little quick riddle here. If you take a black man or black woman, you take a nigger,
Okay.
and you put him or her into a black organization, say the NAACP or National Urban League, what do you have?
A nigga in the National Urban League.
Thank you. So we go into these situations thinking that we're okay as we are, that we don't have to go through some type of process of being
Recalibrated.
great word, being
Yes.
calibrated, right? having a lobotomy, if you will, right? A mental or social conscious lobotomy, right? We go in these organizations, whether it's Omega or it's any fraternity or sorority or business organization, whatever, and we think just because it's a bunch of blacks there that we should be united, we should be okay. No, we're going in with the same mind state that we were outside of those organizations. So we have to recognize that there's a need for us collectively to change. Those that are so-called conscious and those that have yet to be woke, if you will, right?
There have been some organizations that did concentrate on change. I was a part of an organization, Shrines of the Black Madonna, the leader of that, Albert B. Clegg Jeramogi, did have that process. We could say, I know in the NOI, Nation of Islam, in a way has had that. I can't speak for them, maybe the brother will be able to come here and speak for that. But so there have been people that recognize that.
I don't want to
Go ahead,
disparage any
brother.
organization, but since we're having this conversation, we have to deal with this, and we have to look at it honestly. In terms of organizations, it's very difficult for you to have a black or an African or conscious or woke organization when Europeans are financing it. When Europeans are the architects of it, right? And we're vying for European approval, wherewithal, and their minions or their constructs are forever ruminating in our
Brother
mind.
Cedric, are you
So,
speaking of one of those particular
I'm
organizations?
speaking of almost all of them. And we've
Well,
said,
I mean, of course.
we used to call the NAACP niggas ain't acting like color people. And the reason why folk used to say that is because they do not represent the common core, run-of-the-mill black person who was going through the struggles. They were part of the enclave of the elite, and they represented the interests of the bourgeoisie or bourgeoisie.
So if you bring black people together, what is the purpose of it?
To make a difference.
How? In what way? Economically?
Oh, definitely. That's
Okay.
or social. It could be for many reasons. But one of the reasons is to make a difference. Or let me give you an example.
Okay.
I'm a member of, well, I was a member of an RV community, black community, and we were very social, and we still sociable together. But I, like as you say, I could no longer fit in the RV group because, and these were the average age was 65. And it's the NARVA, it's National African American RV Association, that was the thing. And then the Sojourners were the Texas group. But the problem here with that whole situation, why I no longer want to be part of the group, because, you know, a 30-minute meeting with a bunch of, you know, average 65-year-olds became to 2 hours.
Oh, absolutely.
Because everybody wanted a voice. And the goal in the bylaws was say fun, fellowship, and I think family fun and fellowship. That was the purpose of the RV, but it became so. And even NARVA, you know, it kind of went down to a 500 RV group to basically, it probably is 130 because the leadership became to the point that everybody wanted to be the head person in charge. Where was the fun and fellowship in bringing the youth in to say, hey, this is, you know, the children a part of it.
Right.
That's what my husband and I, that was it all about, a fun and fellowship and bringing the next generation over to enjoy. Because this was, you know, something that we enjoyed, but it was, and you saw it crumble. And it you know, it's just heartbreaking to see that. And it's us. So we can't say that had nothing to do with them. That organization was us. And it really had in Houston 3 of them. And all 3 have crumbled, maybe even 4. It was kind of sad because they didn't want to bring the youth in because they want to still control the.
Right, and I think that kind of goes back to what I was talking about before, this segregationist mindset, right? Is that it has put us in a position where we will find any reason to differentiate between ourselves, right? And so whether it's between the young and the old, you know, and somebody not wanting to pass the baton or pass the torch onto the next generation, whether it's, oh, you light-skinned it, you dark-skinned it,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Being taught that, yeah, and you have to be untaught, right? You have to be untaught how to walk into a room and you see another black man or a black woman, how to think the best and the positive and have positive image about them. Right. Now, one of the things that we talked about,
We're not aware of it.
We're not aware of it, right? So one of the things that is that it's a process.
But there's some basic things that we are aware of. Some basic courtesies. It doesn't take a whole lot to acknowledge it, brother. You walk into a room, hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Right.
My name is Sababu, Keith, whatever. How you doing, lady? Just common courtesies of acknowledgement is how you begin any relationship, black, white, or whatever. We don't have to make this as complicated as it appears to be.
I'm glad you said that.
It just
because
takes some common sense, you know?
I walked in here, full of joy. Hey, how's everybody? Good morning. Good morning. How are you? And this one particular lady, kind of like gave me the look and said, acknowledge me
When you came in here to the show?
last week.
Oh, last week. Okay. All right.
And, I still, I got it instantly, I got that vibe, but I still kind of stayed positive. But I just didn't, this is, and believe it or not, based on everything, her pay, she was a doctor, and why, and I was so kind of offended that how she just didn't kind of bring me in.
Right.
I didn't know where that came from. And so I was a little amazed.
Sometimes, because being in black in America, there's so many precious points coming that are being put on us. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that anything can kind of just take our energy away, right? We used to have a saying at the Nation, it's Shrine of Black Madonna, that if a brother, two brothers, or brothers and sisters, or two sisters have a rift, typically we go, well, that Negro's at fault. Or it's not me, it's her.
Yeah.
And the thing is that at the moment you recognize that you have a rift with your brother, if I recognize that rift first, I have a responsibility to set it right, to make it right. I don't wait on him, no matter what he did, to hurt me or whatever. If I recognize there's something going on between us, because I need him, I need her, I need you, in order to get some sense of fulfillment in life. It's not that deep. But it is. It's like I talk about. It's talking about life. Life is simple, but life is deep. And this is what I'm talking about. That it's just about relationship, relating to one another, being relatable to other things within our existence.
Let me ask this question. Throughout our history, there have been examples of black communities that have thrived. If anybody has watched the first episode of The Watchmen, they gave a description of what happened in 1921 Black Wall Street in Tulsa. And that community, they said, was a very thriving community. And anybody saw the movie Rosewood, same thing.
Right.
Those seem like communities that were, if they had been allowed to flourish, they would have been great examples. Right. And so they seem like they had put it together, but again, some outside entity came in and saw that possibility and destroyed it. So I believe that deep down,
The local sheriffs,
white
local
people,
government,
or
yeah.
the government, or whatever label you want to put on it, but those seem to be examples of our possibilities of what we could have accomplished.
Right.
So we are saying that, wherever we come together, something is going to happen. I don't believe that. Now, it's more difficult because we've been embedded with certain negative attributes against ourselves.
Absolutely.
But that somebody's embedded with us. But if we have a consciousness and a desire to overcome those disabilities, we can, and we have it in us, in our DNA, to grow. This is the SourceSeeker Hour on Afro Vibes Radio, the #1 internet station in the world. We thank you very much for joining us for our great program on why can't black people work together compared to other races. We're going to take a break right now. Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
Your favorite radio station.
This is Afro Vibes Radio Houston.
Welcome back. Thank you. We're having a powerful discussion with Brother Cedric Keeler, Brother Dion Dorsett, Brother Sababu Keith Strong, and my co-host Pamela Ballard Hicks on the SourceSeeker Hour. We're having a powerful discussion on why can't black people work together compared to other races. Brother Cedric, you had something you wanted to talk about.
Well, I just wanted to frame the question because I know we can work together. We're working together now, and I imagine each individual is working together. I think that it has been positioned for us to feel we can't work together, which then leads to attitudes, behaviors, and activities that have led to that. One of the things I wanted to talk about with Black Wall Street, which was a term coined by Booker T. Washington when he came to Tulsa, many people don't realize it was the regular run-of-the-mill black person that was a domestic, which today they'd be making around $250, $500, $600, and they were able to work together in a cultural and connected manner in which the dollar circulated 26 times. Right? Now we know St. Louis and we know Atlanta were very effective because they had industries, and then they had politicians, and then they had a very wealthy enclave of black elite. But the reason why I succinctly and want to cogently talk about Greenwood, Tulsa, is because it was regular black people who were putting aside their egos and putting aside vanity and putting aside success and working for the collective, realizing that it's not about the individual, about the vanity, but it's about the group, because we only progress as far as we move as a group. That's one of the reasons why I'm very disappointed in a lot of brothers and sisters talking about boycotting Harriet Tubman's film that just was released. It's because it speaks to a lack of understanding. No one who produces a film that's outside of our culture will ever represent our culture the way we would. And it's a shame that we have to let them do that and misappropriate our culture. But that speaks to our fragmentation and the fact that we have feelings and thoughts that are leading us astray, right? The blind leading the blind, they both fall into what? A ditch. But the reason why I bring that up is because this is a story that needs to be told. Our young people watch somewhere in the area of 11 hours of screen time, and they read less than any generation of black people have ever read. Because black people, when we were in the physical chattel slavery, we fought and died to read. Yes, and now you will kill a kid before you get him to read, naturally, right? And that's a shame.
So what are some of the things today in 2019 that are our obstacles, and how can we overcome those obstacles? You had something you wanted to say, Pam.
Well, also, I did go see the Harriet Tubman movie, and I thought it was, I was just the actors. I'm so glad that I had an opportunity to see it. I thought the movie was worth watching. You had that typical strong black female. I mean, you cannot deny the power, the strength. I totally enjoyed it. I get what they're saying, but like you said, I'm totally against that boycotting the movie. I don't get it. You got these profound, strong black actors. I mean, why not? Why, yeah, nothing is really told in 100%. From the book. It's not literal, not 100%. It's always going to be something. You have to bring this to the screen, and as far as a form of entertainment. And remember that when Oprah tried to do that movie,
Beloved,
yeah. And it flopped because she brought it literally based and pulled it from the book. I understood it because I terribly enjoyed it because I could now understand what was being, because it was a difficult read. One of the hardest reads I ever had. But when you pull something literally from the pages, and without some form of entertainment in there, you're going to lose the audience.
It was too deep for people. And I'm just saying, not to cut you off, sister, I just want to say this because You know, many of us, we love Black Panther, even though it was black people criticizing Black Panther. They were, you know, Killmonger shouldn't have died and all this and all that. And I think many people need to understand that Killmonger attitude, and I'm not disparaging brothers and sisters that have that, but that destruction-like mentality of being so filled with anger, right? That anytime that you see someone black doing something, you have to find a way to destroy it. You have to find a way to attack it. And I think that, real quick, I just want to say this. I think that it's sad that one of our legendary ancestors who existed, who was not a fantasy, who was real, who was a warrior, is being denigrated. And I think it speaks to the attack that's happening on the black women and attacks that are happening on black men, especially because we're not being able and capable to bring people in. I do know the film showed a black man in a very disparaging light, and we got to speak to that and address that. But that doesn't mean destroy the film or destroy black women's contributions.
So back to my go ahead, brother.
I want to bring us back to Black Wall Street, and I want to introduce this additional theme that I think is kind of like underpinning throughout the generations. Is the fact that we only tend to start doing something great now, or moving towards, or moving together when there's some serious adversity. And we're usually only moving towards that direction when it's too late. So I can appreciate all that happened with Black Wall Street, but Black Wall Street was a response. It was a response to how people were being treated, and they weren't getting the services and the things that they needed. Now we push forward, right, and we allowed that to be destroyed. And when I say we allowed, it was also taken from us. I don't think we did enough to really bounce back from it. But as we push forward into the future, everything that we are starting to develop and everything that we're starting to do is conditionally in response to something that is now too far gone, right? We're talking about saving our communities and saving our communities from being gentrified. We had all the opportunities to save these communities all these years before. Now, no, I'm not saying that that it's necessarily too late. But it's a little bit too late for your property taxes to go back down, or to be where it was reasonable, where now you're not being pushed out of your community.
I must say there are several examples of black entrepreneurs today that are doing very progressive things, at least on the surface. If you look at Tyler Perry Studios, you look at what Byron Allen is trying to do, and we throw in those particular black movies that are trying to progress and so forth, and a lot of even what LeBron James is doing with his school and so forth. Do you know of any other examples of things going on, Brother Shababu?
I'm a small business owner myself.
Yes.
And I've been in the telecommunication industry for over 25 years. Worked for, well, I won't mention the companies, but in the areas of cloud computing, cybersecurity, those types of disciplines. And the one thing that I've understood is that you don't have to be little LeBron James or some other people that you mentioned in order to make an impact, right? Being able to monetize some of the skills and education that we all have individually and be able to make money from that and showing other people how to make money. For example, the model that I use is one of a broker. I'm a technology broker. Basically, where I've got contracts with different technology providers, AT&T, Ring Central, a lot of others that you guys may have not heard about. But I discovered that based on the fact that I worked for these companies previously. Mm-hmm. They realized that I wasn't making as much money as I should have been based on what I was giving to those organizations. So now I figured out, okay, so anytime I run across somebody that has a problem, I start trying to understand, okay, so tell me more about that, right?
You talking about like a computer problem or what kind of problem?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Anytime you run across an individual that tells you that they've got an issue, start going down that well with them. Really, tell me more about that.
Okay.
What are your options? What do you think about doing? Well, I don't know. I got a solution. Even if you don't have a solution at that moment, go find it.
Yes, bro.
If we start teaching people to start thinking as problem solvers within our communities, within our families, within the business community, so forth, there's money to be made from that. There's opportunities there, but you have to be kind of awakened to the fact that we can do as much, if not more, than anybody else has ever done in this country and on this planet in terms of economic development.
When you say we, and I always think about the black churches. We got the mega churches. We don't have the mega banks or the mega Wall Street, but,
Yeah, we had churches, but the problem that we have, in my opinion, is that our belief system is one that really kind of holds us back. I posted some other day on Facebook, and it talked about the fact that if your religion teaches you to love your enemy, your religion was created by your enemy.
Yes.
Okay?
I did like that on Facebook also. I exactly know where the brother comes from.
So
go ahead.
So we had these ecclesiastical institutions, churches, whatever, all in every corner across Black America, and they're believing in something that doesn't really speak to the core needs and issues that most Black people face Monday through Saturday, and so especially for Black men,
Yes.
we gravitate toward power.
Right.
Okay,
Understand.
power and truth. That's what we gravitate toward. I don't care if the kid is 7 years old or he's at least 70 years old. When somebody's speaking truth to a Black man, I don't care what his background is. He will tune in, he will listen, he'll pay attention, because it speaks to his core need, one of being in power, being in charge, being responsible for his existence and those that he cares for. So, trying to get the Black church, and we've been down this path.
Yes.
Trying to get the Black church to change their agenda, to embrace what we're talking about here, to me, it's not going to work like that. Something you talked about, and talking about Wall Street, and the fact that we did that based out of necessity. You're absolutely right. That any group of people all become a group because they have a shared need.
Correct.
For survival.
Correct.
And we don't, until we get to that low denominator where we feel like, okay, we have no choice but to fight. We're in the corner now. We're not going to see the need to want to come together as a collective to try to deal with our collective issues.
So I just want to say this real quick. Then it's no longer a Black church. Then it is divesting in our community, and we need to call it such, because what I always tell people is when they say, well, schools don't do that. They don't reach out. They don't do outreach. No, schools are meant to function for what the community and our people need.
Right.
The church is meant to be designed to support the needs of the people.
So it's a reflection of the
Right.
people.
So when we go into these constructs, we go into it, as you mentioned, the segregated mind. And I think it's important for us to say this is because we have never received integration. We have never received integration. And I communicate this to people because we know in July we had the 55th year of the signing of the 1964 Civil Rights Bill. And that was a desegregation. So the power relationship between inferior and superior stayed the same. So it didn't matter if we were able to go into the movies or sit on the toilet with them. They still ran the businesses. They still had the chains of command. So until we begin to understand what real integration means, that means we all become integrated amongst ourselves as a whole, and then we address our common needs and interests. We cannot integrate with our enemy. That's insane. You wouldn't integrate a wolf and a pig together.
No.
Why, good night. That'd be dinner for the wolf, right?
No. There's a book, and it's an old book. It's called The Spook Who Sat by the Door.
Correct.
Okay? And kind of, get to the point of the story. Whenever you go into corporate America, as I've done for a long time, and many other people have done, your job is really get as much knowledge, resources, skills, talent, certifications, money, whatever you can take out of that situation, and you start to build your own. You start competing against them. So that day comes when you walk out the front door, they go, hey, I thought you were happy. Hell, I am happy, right?
Let me ask. Go ahead, brother. Finish up.
Because you went into the situation, with an agenda, but you also had an exit strategy, right? And that helps you to deal with all the political BS that you have to undergo when you're in that environment, right? You can deal with all the other crap that goes in there because you got an agenda while you're in there, and nobody has to necessarily know about it. But you know what you're there to get.
Correct.
You got to get resources.
So let me ask this, and let me give an answer. What do we do today to help make things better? I would say that we have to start with our own circle and then try to connect with other circles. What do I mean by circle? Well, your family, your house that you stay in, that's the beginning of your circle. Then Sababu has a circle, Brother Dion has a circle, Brother Cedric has a circle, this sister has a circle. So we have 5 circles right here, and if we can do things together, work together, that's an enhanced, and a bigger circle, and that's where we can start. we bringing you this show here are the Writer Source Group. We have a circle that we're building. We have this show that we're building, and we have other activities that we are building in our group, and we're growing bigger and bigger week by week. And we are trying to build our circle, and we want to connect with other circles. I believe that is where we have to start. And as we work together, each circle connecting together, making a bigger circle, and making a bigger circle, we have
And
a
making the
large
foundation
circle.
stronger.
Yes, in the middle has to be the foundation. In the middle has to be the foundation that enhances everybody. So everybody on the fringes can come back into the middle and get reinforced. This is the SourceSeeker Hour on Afro Vibes Radio, the number one internet station in the world. We thank everybody for joining us for this powerful conversation. We have Brother Keith Strong Sababu, we have Brother Dion Dorsett of the National Urban League, Brother Cedric Keeler right here, and I'm the SourceSeeker Baruti Carl Alexander with my co-host Pamela Ballard Hicks, and we're having a very powerful discussion. Let's talk about a little bit about where people can talk to you and have more conversation with you, and what perspective do you come from? What organizations have you been a part of? What's your organization now? And how can people talk to you? Let's say they've heard something that you are saying, Brother Cedric, Brother Dion, Brother Sababu, and they want to ask you about it. How can they do that, and from what frame of reference, what frame of conversation?
The name of my company, and my name again is Keith Strong. The name of my company is called Network Insiders. You can go to networkinsiders.net. That's my website address. And what we do is basically help companies, mid-sized enterprise companies, to mitigate.
Say that name again.
Network Insiders.
Network Insiders. Okay.
With an S.
Okay.
And what we do is help to mitigate and minimize risk for businesses of all sizes that are looking to embrace technology. So whether it's cloud, whether it's cybersecurity, whether that's mobility and IoT.
And where can the people reach you?
They can reach me at 832-916-6999.
Okay. Facebook and different things?
LinkedIn is probably the best way to reach me.
Okay. All right, Brother Dion.
All right, yeah, so this is Dion Dorsett, president of the Houston Area Urban League Young Professionals, and you can always reach us and connect with the organization at www.hallyp.org. We have platforms on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and personally, I always give my personal number out because I'm always about trying to connect with the next person. And so you can always reach us at 225-803-0632. Yes, that is a Louisiana number. I'm never going to give it up. 225-803-0632. But I want to share this one thing about our organization. You know, we are very focused on the young professionals and making sure that our young professionals are prepared to receive the torch when it is going to be handed to us. My motto for the organization has always been, we are not here to tear people down, we are here to build people up. And if you're looking for a sense of community, sense of organization where you will be celebrated, then this is the organization for you.
Sounds good, Brother Cedric.
Man, it's a privilege, pleasure, and honor to be in such a company of black excellence and greatness. Thank you, brothers, and thank you, dear sister, for enabling us to come together. What I wanted to respond to real quick was, because you laid that question out beautifully, and you talked about the circle, and I thought about what you talked about last week. The show was great. Self-actualization. That's what has to happen. We have to become self-actualized to realize that we are whole, right? Absolutely. And just like a circle, 360 degrees, and I want to ramble on, but I do want to talk about we have to make a revolution, because that's what, when the solar return, that's a revolution, right? And revolution means change. And we have to change the way we're looking at things, thinking about things, and then the things that we're looking at will begin to change. I think that it's important that we realize that whatever organization you're part of the human family, and we happen to be the most melanated, we happen to be the original man and woman, and we have to understand that, embrace that, accept that, and then teach others that, and then express that in a way in which they understand they got to respect that. Right. What we're striving to do on November 16th is, with the cooperative group economics, is we're bringing a community forum. We know that the election is tonight. If you're watching the show prior to the 5th, 5th, you know that it's already happened, but the runoff is soon to be happening. And we need to make sure that we're aware of what's happening and what's going on so that we can make the best decisions possible. So we'll be doing that at the Shrine of the Black Madonna on the 16th. You can reach out for more information. You can tune in to Conscious Mindset, which airs on Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Mighty 90. Not trying to do the plug, but I want to give some love to our community and also let them know that they can call me at 832-208-2312. Again, I'll say that again, 832-208-2312. And as we love to say, we love you and there's nothing you can do about it.
That's our sound. Beautiful, peace and power. And this is the Source Seeker Hour. We thank everybody for joining us. I just want to say I'm the Source Seeker again, Baruti Carl Alexander, and this is my latest book, and I talk more about why black people can't get along. The name of it is Voices from a Deep Heart, Visions for the Future Growth of the Shrines of the Black Madonna. I talk about a lot about black people. Of course, I talk about being a part of the Shrine of the Black Madonna as a missionary, and it talks deeply about different perspectives of blackness, humanity, spirituality, and different perspectives. And this is the Source Seeker Hour. We thank everybody for joining us. If you want to know more information, you can check Brighter Light on Facebook. You can check our website, www.sourceseeker.net. We'll see everybody next week. We probably have a rerun. I think we're going to have a rerun. But the week after that, we're going to have Fighting Depression, Finding Brighter Light. It's going to be a great show. And we thank everybody. So join us then. Look for us online and talk to these great brothers. Everybody have a good day and a good evening. Thank you. Bye.
Excellent show.
Your favorite radio station.
This is Afro Vibes Radio Houston.